All right, well, it's 9 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and start the fourth session in our winter webinar series with the Farm Stress Management team. Happy to have everyone here today. I'm Shannon Dill. I'm with University of Maryland Extension. I'm based in Talbot County, and I'm an extension educator there for agriculture and food systems. And this last session is a farm finance checkup. And I work in the farm management side of the agriculture team and the farm stress management team. And we find that often farm finances and financial management and the fiscal place of the farm can sometimes cause stress for owners and farm families. So this is one of the areas that we've started developing tools and resources around. So we're very happy to have you here today and going to talk a little bit. It's kind of timely. It's wrapping up the end of this year, which is unbelievable, 2021. And so we'll talk a little bit about looking back and then looking forward to 2022 from a farm finance perspective. So today's objectives is going to be looking at your year-end documents and talk a little bit about those, some of your farm and personal goals, financial statements, your budgets, and then finally is that getting organized. So year-end documents are one of the things that you'll begin to pull together at the end of this year. So that could be capital purchases that you made. You'll need to be sharing those with your tax advisor as you're putting together your 2021 documents. So that could be equipment purchased. It could be implements. It could be property information that you have if you've acquired properties. Perhaps it's investments that you've made or specific sales documents that you'll need for your year end. And if you haven't taken some time to go through the IRS farm tax guide, it's really helpful document to understand what you'll need to do for your accountant as well as the IRS as you do your farm taxes. The next will be to clean up, reconcile, and double check your documents. This is just a way to go back through 2021 and make sure you didn't have any errors. You know, you might have been inputting your expenses at 11 o'clock at night during the growing season, or it's early in the morning. And it's definitely easy to make some mistakes as you're entering those data throughout the year. So any way that you need to clean up, you know, each transaction should be categorized in one of your Schedule F documents. And so you'll need to make sure that they're all in the proper categories. You'll also need to reconcile your bank account and make sure that everything aligns that way. And then just double checking. And one of the great ways to do that is to run reports. So if you're currently using a financial documenting system like QuickBooks or Quicken or any of those kind of finance software, there's some ways that you can do to kind of check your work, to run some reports and see if you have any outliers. And that's a really important step because, again, it's very easy to make some mistakes throughout the year. So just making sure that you have things labeled as you need them. Reviewing those income and expenses and making sure that you have receipts and any of the documents that you need. You know, where was the income streams from your farm? Where were the expense streams coming from? And then lastly is the employee and contractor documents. So if you have employees, if you have 1099 employees, there are specific things that you'll need to do to provide them with their tax documents for the year. So cleaning up those employee and contractor documents and having those ready to run the 1099 reports or the W-4 reports. One of the things that I do think helps and I think goal setting is an important way to start. So you've looked at your year end and you've kind of seen where you've been. I think it's time for some reflection. And I always like to sit down sometimes at the end of the year and go through photos, go through documents. If you're a farm that posts a lot on social media, really to look at a review of the year, you know, where you were. January just seems like forever ago. It feels like this year. And so some time for some reflection. And I think it also makes you feel good at your accomplishments where your accomplishments were, things that you want to work on for the future. So a little bit of time for some reflection, and then thinking about what goals that you want to accomplish for 2021, 2022. Whether it's personal goals, maybe it's something for the family or activities that you need to accomplish. This year, my goal was braces for my youngest. So, I mean, that was a financial investment that we needed and something that we knew we should plan for. So, things for the personal, for the farm, for the business, those type of things. And remember that goals should be SMART. They should be specific, measurable, attainable, rewarding, and time bound. So please, when you're creating those goals, try to have them within those parameters so you can know that you've accomplished them. So something like maybe a vacation next year, or do something with a barn. That's not very specific. Maybe some very specific tasks and activities that you want to complete. The next is going to be, and the next few slides are about farm financial statements. And those, each one gives you information about the farm and the financial position of the farm. So the first financial statement that I'll talk about is the balance sheet. And the balance sheet is a summary of the assets and liabilities that your farm and family have. So you categorize those in what you own and what you owe. And being able to look at that, you can figure out what the farm's or what your net worth is. And this is a very important tool for lenders. If you have a line of credit, or you're looking at a loan, or you're trying to pay off loans, summarizing those assets and liabilities is an important process. Your net worth, again, so you take the value of your assets, you subtract it from your liabilities, and that gives you your farm's net worth. Generally, they're broken up by current assets. So those are less than 12 months. So that's cash on hand, things that are easily accessible. There's intermediate, something like equipment. And then there's long-term, which is usually mortgages, land, that kind of thing. A balance sheet is a snapshot point in time of the financial position. So when you create this balance sheet, you want to make sure that you're creating it and putting a date on it. And the idea is that you do it the same time every year, because over the years, you can find out how you're gaining, hopefully, net worth. And so here's an example. There's lots of templates. Your lender might have their own templates they would like you to use, but this is sort of how it's organized. So your assets are cash, as I mentioned. Maybe it's people that owe you money, so you're expecting to be paid for a project or an activity. It's some of your inventory, it's your automobiles, machinery, equipment, property. Your liabilities are accounts payable, so what you owe, any credit card debt, any notes payable, your mortgages, your loans. And again, preparing a year-end balance sheet year after year really gives you and your lender important information about the worth of your farm and how you're gaining worth as the farm advances year after year. It really does help you measure the success as the business grows. So this is a really, and it does feel rewarding. I do a line of credit every year, and being able to complete a balance sheet every year and see where you're at and your accomplishments is very, very helpful. The next statement is a cash flow statement. And so this is very different, where the assets are showing, the balance sheet is showing your assets and liabilities. The cash flow is the ins and outs. So this is your checkbook. It's all the cash inflows and outflows for a period of time. And this will be what you'll be using as you prepare your tax statements for the end of the year. This is what the major activity in your farm financial software would be, like QuickBooks would be your monthly payments, your monthly expenses. So your inflows could be product sales, receipts, any sale of capital assets, any borrowed money would all be part of those inflows. The next is the cash outflows. So that's production expenses, your seed, your fertilizer, your loan payments, any living expenses, your capital expenditures. Those would all be part of the outflows. And here's an example. And again, there's lots of different templates. you can see in this chart, this is for a year. You could do it by quarter. Some people do it by the month. So it really depends on how you want to categorize your cash flow. But what is helpful is the more that you do this, the more you get a handle on your expenses, and you can do a projected cash flow. So I can say, all right, what did I spend in 2021? And then what can I plan to spend in 2022? And as you do this process, maybe not the first year, but year after year, you get a better handle on where your expenses go, where your cash goes, and how to plan for the future. So it will help you plan your income and expenses over the year. And cash flow is just very important for farmers because of the seasonality of agriculture. And so if you can do that on an annual basis, it's very helpful. So you would have two cash flow statements. What did I spend in 2021? And what am I planning to spend in 2022? So the projected and the actual. The next and final financial statement that I'm going to share with you is enterprise budgets. Often call them crop budgets. If you have livestock enterprises, you can do these. But this is where you start to get the costs in per crop or per livestock that you have on the farm. And this type of process this year, it's going to be very, very important. We're doing our grain budgets right now, and prices of inputs we know are going up. Price of fuel is a lot higher than what it was when you did an enterprise budget last year. So this type of process and financial statement divides the costs and returns for each enterprise. And what it'll help you do is determine the productivity of the enterprise, if you should continue, if you should need to make tweaks, and where to start pricing your products. So an example is with our grain budgets, we know, okay, it's going to cost this much to grow a bushel of corn, then I should know where I should start marketing that bushel of corn for. So these are available. You can do a quick internet search for enterprise budget. Often I'll search, say, enterprise budget, blueberry extension. And then I would come up with all the extension services that have a blueberry crop budget for me. There's often ones for hay. Anyone in the cattle, sheep, livestock, they usually do it on a per head, or say like a cow, like a pair, a mother and baby pair, they'll do it for. For dairies, it's generally done by the hundredweight of milk. And so these are a great way to start estimating what you're going to be spending for the crop and what you're going to especially be outlining at the beginning of the year. So these are the sections. You saw the kind of example. These are the sections of an enterprise budget. So the first one is going to be the income. What is your expected income? And you probably have some idea of what your yield is or should be, what your yield is going to be and what your price is going to be. And so you can get the income. The next is the variable costs. And these are expenses that are going to vary with the level of output. So if I add an acre or I add an animal, I'm going to add more feed or fuel or seed. And so those are variable costs. And those are costs right now that you can call around and get quotes for. As we were doing our enterprise budgets, we were able to get a quote on seed, on fertilizer, on the different herbicides we might need for the crop. So you can call around and do those. The fixed costs are expenses that do not vary with the level of output. And so those are your overhead. That's your depreciation, your interest, repairs, any machinery costs. And there's some ways that you can allocate those machinery costs per enterprise. So if I have a tractor that I use on the whole farm, you could assign a crop a certain amount of that tractor expense. And that way you can look at those. The biggest thing is making sure that you cover your variable costs. Of course, you want to cover fixed costs as well, but you need to at least cover how much it costs you to actually physically grow the crop in the field. All right, so we're moving on from the enterprise budgets and those financial statements to a household budget. And Jesse, I wouldn't be a good financial educator if we didn't at least know and bring up household and personal budgets, is knowing what you do need to be able to cover as far as the household and expenses go. So you can use last year's records and maybe your new goals to create that household budget. There's lots of templates available out there. Generally, they're done by the month. So how much will you spend in January and go by each of the 12 months? And I think that this really helps you plan for big purchases, perhaps events in the family, and also paying down debt. So if I know that I could pay down debt, or maybe I just need to make minimum payments for a period of time, having a household budget kind of helps you plan for that. The next is maybe some capital improvement planning, some projects, and we all have projects around the house and farm that we want to do. That's going to take some time, investment, maybe even permitting. So review projects that maybe were in the works or those that need more planning. Make a plan for those major purchases and activities for the next year. And that could include looking at new equipment. It could include land or property improvements. Maybe it's conservation. You've been talking with the Soil Conservation District about doing an activity and need to move that forward and get a plan in place. Or perhaps it's a marketing activity that you need to do. So think about those capital improvement projects. And then the next is those year-end appointments. So talked a little bit about the capital improvement projects. The next is talking about some of those year-end, and a lot of what I've talked about is planning for the accountant for that proper year-end planning. Many people will meet with their accountant before the end of the year, so they're planning their December meetings now, so they can decide on, where is the farm, where is our family right now? Should we defer payments? Should we make some pre-purchases? Should we wait on some things? So this can help you make those planning and records. This time of year, also meeting with your accountant, you can discuss any contract or vendor information you have. So 1099s would be due in January. And so working with them to get that planned. The next are contracts. And if you could take some time to review any maybe annual contracts that you have, maybe consider negotiating if that's needed, you can renew those. And then meeting with other advisors, and that could include crop insurance, financial advisors, maybe it's lenders or attorneys, just trying to meet with those advisors and make a plan for either reporting for this year or making plans for next. So, and then the last one, we've talked a lot about farm stress and rural healthcare recently, and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And we're not going to be a good farm advisor. We're not going to be a good partner in the business if we don't feel well. And so taking some times for appointments, I know it's easy to push off, especially during the busy season. So any appointments, annual checkups, or screens that need to be done, this is a great time of year to review those that need to be done and to try to take care of those. And the last one is to be getting organized. And so we've talked about 2021. It's looking at filing those 2021 information and setting up files for 2022, prepare your 2022 calendar, and really looking at your record keeping. What were some pitfalls maybe that you had? What information could you use to make better decisions or keep better records on the farm, whether you're using a paper-based system like the shoebox, perhaps it's the electronic systems, say your QuickBooks or Excel even, a spreadsheet account, or perhaps you outsource some of those. And we do have people that outsource, say, their billing or their, a lot of people outsource, say, their employee, their paychecks and their employee management system. So trying to make some decisions based on that is very helpful. And then again, setting up files for 2022 and making those plans. Where are ways that you could be more organized and what kind of information could give you better decisions for your farm. So think about that as you're getting organized for 2022. And that is all I have for the financial checkup. As you know, we are recording this session. We're also going to be sharing these slide sets. We have, I can also include the farm financial statements and the enterprise budget statements if you would like a copy of those. And a lot of these resources are funded through a number of sources that we're partnering with statewide and nationally. And this is the information. So I would open it up for any questions that you may have as far as the session. I see a couple comments in here that I'm going to look at now. Let's see.